Our topic today is going to be gender norms. My name is Oriana Valderrama.
I am Hope Daniels.
I'm Emma Priesmeyer.
My name is Thompson.
My name is Liberato, and welcome to our TED Talk.
How do women learn to behave, think, and interact with others? What is the acceptable behaviors women should have in professional or social situations? Before we get to that, we need to talk about how women learn these gender norms in the first place, how they develop their self-identity in order to show it to other people. This is best explained by a term learned in class called the self-discrepancy theory. This theory divides the self in three facets: the actual self, who you actually are, the ought self, who you think you should be based on obligations, and then the ideal self, who you wish you could be. What this theory says is that if there are discrepancies in the way you think of yourself and the way society thinks you should be, that can lead to frustration, disappointment, and maybe lower your self-esteem. This means growing up, the behavior we see in other women in media, in our family, or in school will affect if we will conform to these norms or rebel to them.
Conformity can be defined as the tendency to change behaviors in order to fit into group norms. Women can feel as if they must change their behaviors in order to fit into whatever group they find themselves to be in. Women may change their behavior in order to appear more classy, feminine, womanly, or even competent at times. This can be incited by a state of fear or even a learned need to fit into the group. In class, we learned about informational influence, which is a need to be right, and normative influence, which comes from the fear of being ostracized. Normative influence conformity can be seen in the sense that women will abandon their previous mannerisms in order to fit into whatever group they find themselves to be in. Many women will also act in different ways because they are afraid of what men might do to them if they fail to act in a certain way. For example, women may conform to a pattern of being aloof and rude towards men in order to protect themselves from being assaulted.
In class, strategic self-presentation was defined as the effort to shape others' impressions in specific ways in order to gain influence, power, sympathy, or approval. Specifically in work situations or other male-dominated situations, women have to use strategic self-presentation. In a study published by Alexander Gar Schultz and Wendy L. Gardner from the Department of Psychology at Western University, they found that women in STEM professions had different impression goals based on whether they expect to interact with a group of other females or a group of other STEM professionals. This means that the women felt the need to change how they were behaving to fit into the male-dominated situation. It has become a gender norm for women to try to present themselves in a way that will impress men so they will be accepted.
When women are in powerful careers such as politics, people will see them as women first, regardless of their ideas. This is wishful seeing. This is when we see what we want to see, and fears, desires, and motivations influence our perceptions. In politics, women are evaluated more on appearance. In a Chicago Tribune article by Meredith Simons, she discusses that humiliating women based on appearance allows critics to dismiss female politicians or activists without engaging their ideas. When it comes to describing women's behavior, attribution theory provides great context. This theory can be divided into the dispositional category, where behavior is attributed to internal characteristics, while situational category attributes behavior to factors external to a person. Women's behavior is typically attributed to a dispositional category because people tend to blame women's behavior on their gender. An example of this is if a woman fails an exam, some might say that women aren't smart enough to be in that major, or that women aren't driven enough. Rather than looking at the situational factors such as the woman had to work late the night before, or the exam was too hard.
When a woman raises her voice, she feels that she is not being listened to. When a man raises his voice, he feels that he is not being obeyed. Let's try and explain this. At the institutional level, men dominate the most significant acts of aggression, such as the culture of honor, which is why women have been accepted as a less violent and, may we say, aggressive sex. When it comes to the media, positive findings say that the likelihood of violence against women is raised by the sexual depiction of women as objects. When we're talking about the interactional level, Karen Martin, a sociologist, explains in her study that girls are given the most restrictive discipline in classrooms from an early age, which gives more room for boys to be aggressive. Which is why at the individual level, girls resort to partake in indirect and relational aggression, which gives them social benefits. Women only get as physical as men when they are provoked by the excessive stress of being patronized. However, they may feel more guilt than men do. So here's the main takeaway of this TED Talk. Men and women shouldn't try to seek their differences to put themselves above each other. They should just try and respect each other instead. Despite the existence of this universal truth, why do these gender differences exist?